There has been a ton of talk about our K-12 education system, what we're doing to our children in terms of sexualization across this country. Now, in reality, the true trendsetter that actually brought this to the forefront to the national conversation was me, Sean Fitzgerald, when I did the Stop K-12 Indoctrination series for the David Horowitz Freedom Center. However, many of you might be under the illusion, many of you might be under the delusion that it was in fact libs of TikTok that highlighted this issue and brought it to the national conversation, so I shall leave you with that delusion. Also, Chaya actually recently revealed her face on Tucker Carlson, and we need to determine whether or not Chaya is cute or not. Let me know down in the comments below. Obviously, she's the one who got the national attention, whether my series predates her Twitter account or not. We know she's the one who got the national attention. But a story that seemed to slip by under the radar amongst the population on my side of the aisle, at least I didn't see anything, and therefore it didn't exist, because if I don't see it, it doesn't exist, was this story out of Claremont High, where the school board president actually, after being elected, invited the choir to an adult party in order to do a fundraiser where the students were exposed to half-naked males that look like male strippers and offered alcohol time and time again. Now, we're going to get into the story, we're going to get into the photos, we're going to look at the local news report and the reaction, but before I get into that, I just want to thank everybody who has been subscribing, supporting, liking the videos, and signing up on Patreon, Subscribestar, and over at actualjusticewarrior.com/join. Thank you so much. Now let's get into this segment.
A scandal in the Claremont Unified School District tonight. The school board president is in hot water after hosting a holiday party where the high school choir was exposed to scantily clad guests.
Now look, I know you guys give me a little bit of crap for nitpicking local news, but here's the thing. I absolutely love doing it because it's so fun, because local news is so hokey. So I just want to point out that this graphic behind this local news anchor that says choir scandal, no, that is not the case. This would be a school board scandal. It happens to involve the choir, but the way that this graphic presents the story leads you to believe that maybe the choir did something wrong, when I can assure you it was definitely the school board president, and he has since resigned due to this controversy. But get a load of what this guy thought was appropriate.
I'm heartbroken for my son and his beloved choir group. I'm devastated as a parent.
Claremont parents like Sabrina Ho are asking serious questions, some even demanding the resignation of school board president and local teacher Stephen Lanusa over his alleged misconduct involving local teenagers at a holiday party at his home.
Okay, so we got to break this down piece by piece before we get into the image. So first of all, obviously I noticed it. Obviously that means you guys noticed it. Sabrina Ho, very upset about this.
Claremont parents like Sabrina Ho are asking serious questions,
thus making this story a story of Ho's mad. However, this Ho is actually against what was going on, so we are in support of one Sabrina Ho, the anonymous parent, or at least the parent that's not being filmed. We can't really see her giving her take on what went down. Secondly, and of course this is very important, this guy looks guilty on face alone. I'm not saying anything, but if you look at Stephen Lanusa's smile in that photo, you can probably glean some sinister intent, and maybe this wasn't the guy that you wanted to elect as your school board president. And by the way, this goes well beyond the guilt on face alone standard into his actual actions, which we're about to get into, because they're insane, but in comparison to what goes on and it's considered praiseworthy in our public schools, is it really that insane?
These photos from Facebook, shown to me by an attendee at a special board meeting Friday afternoon, show the festivities, including shirtless male performers at the party.
So the local news calls this shirtless male performers that were serving drinks at this party, but here's the thing. We're all adults here. If you are a children's, then please take your children's legs and use them to walk out of the room, because obviously when you say shirtless male performers and they're this jacked, we're talking about strippers. These were strippers. They had strippers, male strippers, at this party, and he invited the choir to sing for the male strippers in what I can only imagine was either something sick and weird or the biggest blunder in the history of the school board. I mean, come on. I'm not saying if you're this jacked, you're a stripper, but I'm saying if you're this jacked and they call you a performer, you're definitely a stripper, and they were hired to be there. It was for a fundraiser for the school. I doubt these are the parents. I doubt a lot of the parents were invited there. This doesn't make sense. This doesn't pass the smell test. And yes, 100%, these are strippers.
Where Claremont High School choir members were paid to perform for a school fundraiser.
These people look like they just missed the casting call for Magic Mike. This is out in California. And honestly, come on, what are we even talking about? Do you disagree? Are you going to take that position in the comments? I will shame you in the comments if you say that these are some performers of some other variety.
Upon the students' arrival, Mr. Lanusa invited the high school choir group into his private adult party in his home. They were encouraged to partake in food and festivities. The students did not begin their scheduled performance until over an hour later.
Now look, I understand Sabrina Ho's outrage. As we've already gone over, Ho's mad, obviously, and anger can sometimes skew your judgment, and if you're not experienced and adept at public speaking, sometimes you can make an error here or there. But I would like to say, and I just would like to point out, that although I am on the parent side, although I think that this guy resigning is the bare minimum, and he might actually have to have been fired, at least investigated, potentially criminally charged, for bringing his high school students to sing for a bunch of male strippers at an adult party, I do think that Sabrina is a little bit off base in her criticisms of what went on that night when she leads off with the fact that they performed their choir song an hour later than scheduled.
The students did not begin their scheduled performance until over an hour later.
Of all the things that you should be focusing on, of all the issues, I think punctuality of performance, the fact that you booked them for this time but they were delayed an hour, should be the least highly ranked thing on display, especially when you hear what went down further at this event, especially when you see the photos. I think the timeliness of this whole performance is not really the issue at hand. I mean, the next thing you know, she's going to be criticizing them for not having good enough acoustics for the choir to sing for these male strippers. I mean, I know California's crazy. I know California puts up with a lot of this degeneracy in their public schools, but I assure you, them performing on time would not mitigate anything related to this story for me, and it shouldn't do it for Sabrina Ho.
And were offered alcohol by party guests among inappropriately dressed adult entertainers.
This dad says Claremont police have interviewed the students. He's angry that the choir teacher didn't chaperone the kids.
Again, maybe it's California, maybe it's just the norm over there, maybe they've been doing drag queen story hour since kindergarten for so long that the main issue at hand is that his daughter was not chaperoned at this party with a bunch of male strippers. But to me, having the choir teacher chaperone, again, does not mitigate it. In fact, it actually makes it worse because then you have more school officials inappropriately bringing the choir on board, like what happened with the school board president and teacher.
He says his daughter was surrounded by drunk partygoers.
They were offered an open bar.
The students were.
They were offered an open bar. They were offered an open bar.
All right, so even though Gabriel over here opened up with the worst criticism humanly possible, the fact that they weren't chaperoned by the choir teacher, again, totally irrelevant when you bring my kid to a party that is clearly an adult party to sing, and that party is full of adult male strippers, but at least he's on message right here. He keeps emphasizing that the kids were offered an open bar. They were offered an open bar. They were offered an open bar. And again, this brings up the question, is resignation for the person who threw the party, for the person who brought the male strippers, for the person who offered these high school kids booze unlimited at this adult themed party, the only step that you could take? Can we not do a criminal investigation? If you, in a lot of states in this country, give your own kid too much booze, then you will be criminally prosecuted. If you host a party and you say, look, my kids are going to drink anyway, I'm going to be the parent, I'm going to limit the alcohol available, but I will have alcohol so they don't have to sneak out and do it, you can be criminally charged for that. But some random, some stranger, some school board president, somebody with the esteem of a government office can do this, add in male strippers, let it get totally out of hand, have no chaperone other than himself there, and that's totally fine. They could post these pictures on social media, no criminal charges. You want to bet I can find some case in California where the exact scenario that I described with a parent in terms of booze ended up with criminal charges? How about if the kids get into the liquor cabinet? You want to bet I can find somewhere in California where the parents face some criminal charges due to some outcome related to that. Yet this guy intentionally did this. He intentionally had this party. He has all these kids photographed because he was so on board with it that he wanted it out there and displayed to the world. And this is considered totally fine. This is considered totally acceptable.
And to socialize with the half-naked men, the dirty Santa that offered and made disgusting comments to our children.
So again, everybody's soft pedaling this. They're calling them adult entertainers, adult performers. They were strippers. They had a party for children that involved strippers, unlimited booze, that booze being offered to the children. And they also had specifically a dirty Santa who was making lewd comments to the children. Now, I know the G word has gotten a lot of negative attention lately. I don't understand why. I don't get why horse grooming has to be brought into this. I think it is a valuable practice. You should really take care of your horse, but for some reason I seem to think the other meaning of that word definitely applies to what's going on here. When you bring kids, have them perform an hour late, don't have a chaperone, just kidding, those are clearly not the issues, but there's a bunch of male strippers there, and then you're serving them booze, and then you have some guy making dirty comments, everybody's older, it's all inappropriate. You would think that label would apply, yet this story has not gotten the national attention that it deserves. Hopefully this video can go viral and get that attention so that you guys know that this went down in Claremont. And again, at this point in time, we're not talking about a criminal investigation or criminal charges. We're just talking about a resignation. The guy was allowed to resign with dignity after doing this, abusing his power in this way, and the parents are complaining about it. They are outraged. They should be outraged, but so should you, because where is the police response? Where are the police? Send in the cops. And I don't mean the strippers that were dressed like cops that were at this party. Send in the cops.
School Board President Stephen Lanusa was absent from Friday's meeting. Before the other members went into closed session, the vice chair addressed whether others attended the party.
So they say the teacher in question is not here. He didn't attend this meeting, but I do want to point out that that guy right there looks just like him, just with glasses on. So I think he did attend the meeting. He just did it in disguise.
I would like to be perfectly clear. There were no other current or past board members present at that party.
But all joking aside, we're going to hear from the vice chair. She's going to distance the rest of the school board from this, say nobody else attended the party. But if this was a sanctioned fund, like a way to raise money for the school district, then maybe some people knew about it, whether they attended or not. And then again, you end up in this weird circumstance where this one teacher, this one school board president, this one official on this board is able to bring an entire choir to an adult themed party, and nobody else has any accountability. This is the problem when you have a leftist school board, because if you think about it, it seems like most of these people are not interested in the actual accountability for the school board president. They're interested in covering their own rear ends because they're just upset that they got caught.
There was no answer at Stephen Lanusa's home Friday.
Now look, I know it is a staple in local news to go send out the local news reporter to knock on the door because, you know, that's just a part of the game. But, you know, obviously he's not answering. Obviously he would be a fool to answer. But then again, he conducted this whole party like it was normal. But the thing is, he's not that far off from what is legally sanctioned and defended in our public schools. I think a lot of the outrage that this generated was from the fact that this was held in his private home, and things like the fact that the choir had to perform an hour late, and things like the fact that there was no chaperone. Because if you think about it, this kind of degeneracy, the kind of male strippers performing in sexual manners, happens in the K-12 education system in the state of California. It's just called Drag Queen Story Hour. This is not actually outside the norm, other than the fact that this guy took it a step further and brought it to their house. So I think some of the complaints, at least out of the state of California, about this guy's actions and the lack of criminal charges is that he had it in an inappropriate location, being in his home. Where they think this should have been conducted was probably in a kindergarten classroom, because that's where we are in this country. Now look, obviously this is outrageous. Obviously some consequences beyond resignation, in my opinion. At least an investigation should be conducted, but those are just my thoughts. Maybe you disagree with me, and if you do so, let me know down in the comments below. If you like this video, show me by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on all my social medias, support me via the support links in the description box of this video. This has been me talking about a school board president bringing adult performers. Till next time.